Hello everyone, this is me, GamePing21, and today, well, this video kind of just fell into people's laps, and everyone seems to be talking about it, and I like to be relevant. So yeah, it was either this one, or I was going to go to the Amazing Lucas one, but that one I'd have to do a lot more cutting of, because this one, while it is still longer, there is still a lot more stuff that I want to cut in and out from this thing, and it'll be easier to edit it, because I don't really need to, do much here. Now, in all honesty, who the heck are we covering today? Well, this is actually someone new to the channel, oddly enough. This new person is called... Give me a second here. Fuck. This new person is called Tech Syndicate. Now, Tech Syndicate has apparently been a lot of different places, but some of the more recent videos that he has done, because he's apparently moved away from tech in and of itself, probably for branding purposes. He has kept the name, makes some sense. But he has moved away from talking about actual tech news and has now started talking about companies and other things like that. I mean, looking at the actual thing here, he has a video called Google, A History of Evil, and Why They Are Not Innovative, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm going to be honest here. This is, while I think that there is a degree of correctness in some of his videos, this one is one of the more popular ones, seeing as how it's gotten 13K in about 6 days, at least at the time of recording this video. So this will probably be like a week out, and it'll probably have more views, unsure. But as of right now, what I want to cover is just the video in general, so why not start it up right now?
We need to talk about the Microsoft Activision Blizzard merger acquisition thing. I saw a poll online, and this is not one of those things where I saw one person say something and I'm going to outrage farm based upon what one obscure person said. I saw a poll and it said, is this going to be good for consumers, yes or no? And it was an overwhelming yes vote. Since when was consolidation ever good for consumers? Before we get into talking about all this money...
Correct. Before we get into talking about everything, let's talk about that fucking intro. Number one, you sound like you're trying to give me an ASMR reading, by the way. Either move further away from the microphone or don't whisper. It makes me uncomfortable. And I don't know why. And not in a good sense. You might be wondering, how can you be good uncomfortable? Well, let me tell you. I'm not going to, because that's weird. However, if you start your video with saying, let's talk about the ABK Activision merger thing, and you use the term thing to describe that thing you just talked about, you probably aren't the best person and most reliable source. I know that I use the term thing sometimes and I don't understand certain things, but usually when I do it, I try to explain what I mean in that context. And I know that he's trying to do it here, but he is citing Dreamcast Guy. That pretty much sums up how reliable that source is by me knowing the fact that this is Dreamcast Guy that he is basing this entire video off of. If you don't know who that is, good. If you do, you understand. Probably put it down in the comments, see if anyone else is there. Also, be sure to follow me on other social medias and stuff. And we're going to get into this because I forgot to do the intro.
Let me show you my new wallet.
We can just skip past the fucking wallet thing. Jesus H. Tap Dancing Christ. Okay.
Look what Disney has done with all of the brands and everything that it has acquired. But first off, I want to show you where some of this is coming from. It's not just the console wars of nonsense. It's not just a bunch of fans of Microsoft Xbox just being like, yeah, eat it, suck it, PlayStation fans. A lot of it starts with this message that we're hearing, and I'll play it right now.
Good news, I think, is starting to prevail that ultimately, if it's good for the consumer, the government can't just block everything. And right now, the government's been in a block everything. And as we've said repeatedly, in many of these...
Well, let him finish. You just cut him the fuck off, first of all. Second of all, I paused in a very, very interesting spot where his face looks like he just took the world's biggest shit. And third of all, okay, so he's talking about how if it's good for the consumers and it's not, and it's good for everyone else, then why block it? That's a pretty substantial, correct thing to talk about. I mean, the government should have at least some control over the free market. I know that that seems like a very counterintuitive type thing, but there should at least be laws and regulations depending on what country you're in. I mean, you don't want people shipping out a lot of goods that are legal in one country but illegal in others. It's kind of a little bit weird, and laws are very weird. But at this time, they have proven that this video game thing won't actually affect that full-on global market in the general long term. Those are a lot of words, but basically they proved it in a court of law to basically everyone, including the FTC, who lost horribly. But let's continue here.
So did you hear what he said there? If it's good for the consumer. And when I first heard that, I was like, oh, he's going to argue that it's bad for the consumer because he's saying if, but let's keep going.
These examples, these deals are actually good for consumers. They're good for pricing. They're good for choice. And
they're good for pricing. They're good for choice.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely. 100%. Also, that comment of the eyes of someone who defends corporation. Well, if that's the eyes of someone who's defending corporations, stare into the eyes of all the other PlayStation fanboys who are fucking salty over this goddamn deal. Including yourself, by the way. I don't think you're a PlayStation fanboy, but you are just someone who is ill-informed and has no idea what the fuck's happening right now. You look like you're high off your ass, and you smoke, maybe not weed, but something else that I'm not going to say in this context. Pick your poison. Anyway.
Having one corporate overlord own everything is good for pricing and good for choice. You know, back in the day, our government used to break up monopolies by saying it's bad for consumers, it's bad for the market, we don't want to have just one company that controls everything. But now a lot of these companies have been going to the lawmakers and saying, listen, this whole, like anti-monopoly thing, that wasn't to try to stop the corporations from becoming too big. That was mainly to protect the people. And we believe that it's better for the people if there's less competition because one giant mega company can come in and control the entire supply chain and we can lower the prices for them and we can take better care of them and it's more convenient because now instead of having to go through multiple different companies and go to one store to get your cheese and go to a different store to get your vegetables, we can go to one store and buy everything and it's cheaper and easier for the consumers. So we believe that monopoly laws were designed to protect consumers from having to deal with nonsense. And since everything under one roof is good, we can essentially make the world a better place. That's kind of what they're saying.
I don't think that that's what they're saying at all. And in all honesty, I probably will just have to move that along because this is going to be a long-ass video if that's the problem. But here's the thing, sir. What you're saying is crazy. Because that's not at all what they're doing. You see, they own the IPs in the video games itself, but they don't own the whole market. One of the biggest things that a lot of people talked about was like making Call of Duty and stuff exclusives, but people don't realize that Activision does more than Call of Duty. They have a ton of other IPs, not just in the console space, but in other spaces as well, including that whole Big King thing, which is huge in the mobile market. It's a lot of money. Now, here's the thing. With this merger, again, it was proven to practically everyone that this consolidation would not inevitably affect the console space in any conceivable way. And in fact, Microsoft in this context is actually encouraging Activision and stuff like that to be 100% like multi-platform for the most part, promising Call of Duty and other ABK games for the next 10 to 15, for the next 10-ish years. And the thing is, Sony eventually, we're going to get into this in a little bit more detail when it gets to the actual point, but Sony walked away with a terrible deal. They had an entire ABK license lined up, and yet they threw that away just for Call of Duty.
We hear that narrative from him. The judge who rejected this. All right, so here they're all like talking about protecting consumers by allowing massive monopolies and mergers. She says, it's not the harm to Sony we care about, it's the harm to the consumers. So and that she blocked the FTC's complaints.
If I remember correctly, she didn't block the FTC's complaint, she just ruled in favor of Microsoft. That's not the same thing, it's just basically not going in favor of it because she realized how they were actually trying to protect the corporations rather than protect the consumers, and they didn't actually do their research. If you did your research, you would know that this is kind of bullshit, at least a little bit. Maybe it's not exactly bullshit, and there's some things that are true about this, but at the same time, they proved a lot of the cases, and the FTC brought fucking nothing to the table. They brought nothing to the table. They asked the same question of the same person no less than 4 or 5 times. The judge had to stop them over the court hearings. They literally asked, hey, are you going to put this on other platforms? And then they answered, yes, we are going to put this on other platforms. And then they're like, yes, but are you going to put this on other platforms? And they responded with, yes, we are going to put this on other platforms. They asked that question like 5 to 6 times. They said that they handed out deals. They had the contracts and stuff. They wanted to be held accountable because the people there knew that if they didn't go into it, they would be they would be forced to do that anyway. I mean, the only people that I remember that didn't sign it was Steam didn't necessarily sign the deal because they trusted Microsoft. At least that's what they told. At least that's what they were told. Maybe they did end up signing the deal or something like that. But I remember that there was a statement at some point where they were just like, oh, we trust Microsoft to just bring it here anyway because we don't care. If they want to do it, it's their own IP. We won't force them to. Same thing with well, maybe not Nintendo. Nintendo actually got the thing there, and they also kind of revealed that they are working on a Nintendo Switch 2, which is quite interesting.
This face right here, this is the person who decided that, you know, they should be allowed to merge because it's good for the consumers. So it's good for the consumers that Microsoft is going to have a huge share of the market, massive share of the market, and that they're going to be able to put all that stuff on their console and withhold it from other.
No, they're not withholding certain things from the consoles. I would say that of all the IPs that they have, Call of Duty being one of the biggest ones, Call of Duty takes up a pretty substantial amount of the market in general, at least for the console and the PC space. But they don't own a massive amount of the markets. Activision owns a pretty substantial amount, but nowhere near the full, like, massive amount that will put Xbox into, you know, a state of actually winning. Not to say that they can't win it, they just restructure it and, you know, play to the strengths of each of the companies they now have under their wings, which, yes, they do, because it's in the final talk with the CMA and stuff like that, yada, yada, yada. Again, we'll get into that in a little bit. But he is just out here just being like, oh, they're going to pull a Sony, then they're going to make everything exclusive, even though they have deals, contracts, and are being held liable by literally every single fucking governmental body on the planet to withhold and make sure that they follow that 10-year contracts that they were handing out. They even handed one to Sony, who, by the way, fucking rejected it and was one of a few companies that was actually there to reject it. They even offered it to other rival cloud services. Rival fucking cloud services. How is that anti-consumer if they are offering Call of Duty and other ABK first-party Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard fucking titles to everyone else who would sign the contract except for fucking Sony? Like, how is that anti-consumer if they have a legally binding contract that says, hey, we can't screw you out of these games? How is that anti-consumer? Explain it to me, please.
Consoles. How is that good for the consumers? Oh, well, they're going to give them a better thing because then they can get all this stuff under one umbrella. They can get all their stuff from Bethesda and its software, and since they've got it all, they'll just lower the prices. Every piece of empirical data shows that when companies like Amazon exist, and once they completely destroy all the mom and pops and all the small competition, they don't lower their prices. That would be insane for them to do. Once there's no other choices for the consumers, they can just raise their prices as high as they want. And that is what they have done. That's why we've seen record inflation. It's not because we're printing gazillions.
By the way, did you hear that? Was that like his computer or something like that? I didn't add that sound effect. That was the sound effect. There was like a badoop in there. I don't know what that was. However, you're trying to compare Microsoft to Amazon, and that's a pretty fair comparison. However, no. They're not, one, pushing Sony or anyone else out of the industry. They really aren't. They are offering the contracts and stuff to people for the next 10 fucking years. And I'm still fucking upset at Sony because they're like, oh, we're not going to sign it and we just want to block your deal because this deal sucks for us. Instead of, you know, coming to the table, willing to talk, saying, hey, you promised us this, maybe we can renegotiate the contract and get more money out of this. Microsoft would have been willing to bend the knee for this deal, and they got it. They fucking, like, got it the fuck. And then it took literally the FTC and every other governmental fucking body losing to get Sony to even step foot into the boardroom of that shit, to even get close to it. If that's what it took to make Sony even come to the table and consider like making a contract, and a contract at this point fucking sucks for them, by the way, because they only get Call of Duty. That's it. They had an entire ABK thing, as helpfully pointed out by some of my commenters. Thank you, commenters. You are awesome. But at the same time, you are 100% looking at just a textbook case of someone who doesn't know what the fuck they are talking about. I'm only halfway through this video, by the way. I'm like 5 minutes into this. I don't know if I could survive this. This might have to be like a two-parter thing. But we continue because I love you guys and I want to finish this fucking video.
Billions of dollars. That's a small piece of it. The truth is that the companies are just extremely greedy. So inflation is just a measure of how much the price of goods has gone up, and the price of the people are getting paid is about the same, so that makes the inflation go up. That's how it works. It's not just...
Oh my God. You want to talk about economics now, bro? You want to talk about economics? You want to talk about economics? Fine, let's talk about economics. Let's talk about it. This is your Economics 101 course with Game Penguin. Because I'm fucking mad right now. So he says that it's not about the corporations. It's about the price increasing for various things with no one being paid the same. Sir, printing money causes fucking inflation. That's how this works. You don't even have to look far. I can use a video game example, and it would still make fucking sense. World of Warcraft. Back in the day, World of Warcraft had a very massive inflation problem. And because it didn't matter how much gold that a person could accumulate, because you could carry infinite amounts of gold. Right? So the price of certain rarer goods and things like that shot the fuck up because there was just more money in circulation. That works the exact same in real life. I know that I used World of Warcraft as an example, but it's the same exact principle. The more money you have, the lesser the value of the fucking dollar is. You want a better example from history? How about the franc? Oh my God, the fucking francs from... Was it francs or marks? I don't know. When Germany, right, in World War... when they had to pay reparations after World War I, they just started printing fucking money to the point of where $1 American dollar at the time could get you a wheelbarrow full of cash in Germany. You would be a fucking millionaire in that context because they didn't care, because they had to pay back these reparations. And that's what caused the inflation, everything to go up. And then at that time, the entire market of them fucking crashed. It's the same principle. It's not because certain people at the top are hoarding the goddamn money. It's because of the fact that inflation happens when you print more money and it devalues the fucking dollar. It's almost like we were in a pandemic for like 3 to 4 plus years and the government printed a lot of fucking money to pay the people to keep the economy going. So that way when we came back, the value of the dollar was lessened to such a degree that we're having this other economic inflation problem. It's not because of companies hoarding fucking money and raising prices on shit. It exclusively comes from the government who prints the fucking money and devalues it by printing more. Because of simple supply and demand, works for fucking everything, including the value of the dollar. That is your Economics Course 101. Get your head out of your goddamn ass.
Printing money. Printing money is bad for inflation. If the wages don't go up, that's not happening, so that's bad. But then the companies are raising their prices on things, and they're not giving raises to their employees. And whenever their employees complain, they either get fired, or they say, oh, we don't have any money. And then you look at the actual news, and they're all posting record profits. That's what inflation is. And that's what happens when only a few companies control everything. They can set the prices to be whatever they want, and you have to pay it or go without. Let's go over some reminders here.
That's still not how inflation works, but go off, Queen. You were still fucking wrong in this context. Fuck off!
This is all the stuff that Disney has been allowed to acquire. Just all this stuff. And there are so many interesting franchises that Disney has acquired, and they have just kind of disappeared. We don't really hear about them anymore. And that's because they're not billion-dollar franchises. And this is kind of what I want to look at this for companies like Microsoft and Tencent. So those are the two of the biggest companies in the world right now when it comes to the share of the video game industry. But once you get that big, you can start to set different guidelines and completely squash culture. They start shoving everything into this tiny little box that everything has to be made a certain way. The certain formula has to be used, and we have to produce stuff that's going to, hit mass appeal. That leaves out a lot of the fringes. A lot of the counterculture is just completely gone.
Fuck off! Oh my God. Now we're getting into culture stuff, apparently. I thought this was meant to be a tech channel. What the fuck am I watching right now? What am I watching?
When one company is allowed to control this much of our culture, it kind of starts to destroy the culture. Look at this. This is another thing. Warner Brothers, they're the other thing. Like, you know, you got Disney and you got Warner Brothers, and they own all this, and we've got Multiversus the game, which I guess looks fun. But, I mean, it's a good...
I'm going to be honest, that I've played Multiversus a little bit. If it came out in a better time, and 100% came out, like, today and was worked on as much as Smash Bros. Was, and is perfected, I would still say it's a great game. Like, it's, if I remember correctly, it's free to play. Go play it. It's really good. It's really good.
Way to look and just see how ridiculous all this is. You have Superman in the same game as Arya Stark, in the same game as Bugs Bunny, in the same game as Shaggy, in the same game as Batman, in the same game as Tom and Jerry, in the same game as Wonder Woman, in the same game as Adventure Time. Finn the Human. That's what I was looking for. Now, I guess some people think that that's awesome, but it's weird. It's really weird that all of this culture is just kind of slammed together. Okay, I think it's a little gross. Whether the game's fun or not, and all this is make-believe and it's all silly, but I really miss the individual quirkiness that each individual thing has, each individual brand. And this is just me ranting right now. All right, I think that's...
Good. Okay, so then that means that I can interrupt you. Listen up and listen close. This is not just because they want to shove a lot of shit together. There's a lot of things that you can shove shit together to. But don't you dare show this man, gee, I don't know, Marvel vs. Capcom, or Smash Brothers, or Smash Bros. Brawl, Smash Brothers Ultimate. Apparently he knows about multiverses. Maybe there's like a few other games that I'm missing off the top of my head. Oh, right, Mortal Kombat. There's several thousand fucking examples of these sort of culture clashes happening. And this is not even the most egregious example. This just happens to be everything from Warner Brothers. How about you try something more appropriate in terms of what you want to do to try to get your voice across, or something like that? Try Fortnite. At least I'd somewhat agree with you on this context. But your evidence is so lacking in that in that way as well that I don't even think that if you were to give Fortnite as an example, I still wouldn't fucking agree with you. Personally, I don't like Fortnite. I'm going to be honest. Fortnite, to me, is... I don't like Battle Royales in general. I like shooters more often, but Battle Royales, to me, are just... They're not the best. My PvP skills suck. I know, absolutely. Call me Call of Duty trash. I love it. It's just great. I'll be in this trash can over here. Good on you. But for Fortnite specifically, I don't like it because it feels kind of like Alien, at least to me. But that doesn't necessarily mean that because I don't like it, that means that it's a terrible game. It's not. It's very popular, and it's popular for a reason. It just has a lot of stipulations that I personally don't agree with. One mainly being that it's on the Fortnite launcher or the Epic Games launcher and stuff like that. And again, if you like Fortnite, this is no shade to you. I'm just using this as an example. But Fortnite has had fucking everything under the sun underneath it. Everything from Microsoft games to Sony games to DC to Marvel to fucking anime and, like, even Rick and Morty, the example that he uses in this one. Like, you can see it on screen. How is that not more egregious than putting all of your Warner things that you own under one banner? Fortnite owns jack diddly shit of any of the IPs that they had, and yet their game is still popular because, at the end of the day, people like that culture stuff. And don't you dare show this man Death Battle. Oh my god, don't show him Death Battle. People have been putting shit up against other shit in fighting games and stuff for fucking ages. People would always debate, okay, who would win in a fight? Fucking Terminator or 35,000 monkeys? I just came up with that on the spot. Actually, like, answer that question down below. Which one? Who would win? The 35,000 monkeys or the one Terminator? I do actually want to know because monkeys can be fucking terrifying. I'm just saying. Just saying. Anyway, but people have been putting them up in the same context. Movies have done this as well. Alien versus Predator and Jason versus Freddy and stuff like that. It's not uncommon for rival studios and like horror franchises and crossovers and shit like this to happen. It's nothing new. It has nothing to do with egregious companies and stuff. The fact that you don't understand inflation and the fact that you don't understand what fighting games and shit like this are, I don't believe that you understand what the fuck you're talking about when you're talking about this ABK deal.
It's kind of what's going to happen with all this Microsoft stuff. If we get that much under one umbrella, it's going to be bad for culture. And that's the main thing that I really care about. I mean, the money is really important, and I think it will be bad for consumers. It will remove choices from consumers. You'll have to choose one platform over the other to make sure that you get the games that you want, and a lot of franchises are just going to vanish.
But that's already what we have, though. That's already what we have. We already have the thing of Sony doing that and locking down exclusives. Final Fantasy used to be multi-platform, but this current Final Fantasy has been locked to the platform under a contract. The Sony has bought out studios to exclusively make the content theirs. Microsoft isn't fucking doing that. They have contracts and other people in place that are making sure that they stick to those contracts for the next 10 plus years, and they will probably even renegotiate those contracts later down the line if they have like stipulations for that 100%. But at the same time, it's so stupid. Your points make no fucking sense. Also, there was something that he said earlier that I wanted to make a comment on, and I think that it had to do with if there's like a bunch of these things underneath one banner. Call of Duty has a thing with the boys. I just wanted to point that out. Call of Duty has a thing with the boys, the Amazon massive fucking thing, right? They have a thing with that. Like, they are making a themed season around that. They're adding fucking laser beams and superpowers into the Battle Royale under the guise of the boys and making the boys themed skins. Just wanted to point that out. That's a thing that they're doing. Just wanted to point that out.
Because they don't measure up, and you know, a big company like that, they can't focus on everything. They're going to put a gazillion dollars in just a few big silos, and all the rest of it's going to be like whatever. Like, look what happened to Deus Ex. Like, where the hell is that? They're probably busy working on some nonsense. I think it got sold. I don't even know. But yeah, it's weird. And then when you look at the cost of these things, and this is, again, I'm just kind of ranting out of turn right now, but when a company like Microsoft buys something like this, they don't like to use the word buy. They're shifting value around. It's like they'll trade value in their stock for all of that property, and their value stays the same. You know what I mean? They've given up this much.
Actually, their value went up. They spent about 69-ish billion, nice, dollars on this deal. And someone recently reported that they shot up to around 140 billion in their market cap. So, yeah. Activision also got a massive increase, and some people walked away with a lot of money.
Of their own value in their stocks and whatever money, maybe. And they've acquired all these things. So to them, their value is still the same. And they're still living by, you know, taking out loans based upon their stocks, and that's how they live because they don't have to pay taxes on the loans they've taken out. That's how the rich do it. Anyway, we'll have to see what happened. I know the FTC.
No, this was a cash deal. Microsoft has the money. Microsoft is a billion-dollar company, like you like to say. This deal was pretty much lucrative assets that they were like, we're gonna buy you the fuck out. And we're gonna make you work. No. Again, this shows how little he has been following this thing. This video is gonna suck to edit. Fuck!
He is gonna fight this. A very bad precedent, because something on this scale, it's huge. And if the FTC loses its appeal, we're going to see so much consolidation so quickly, and it's going to start transferring wealth to the top even faster. Hopefully this will go through. I am making the video before I know what's happening with this, but hopefully the appeal becomes a thing.
Oh, yeah, baby. Woo! This video aged like poorly soiled milk that I shat out of my ass. that's sitting out in the sun. Dude, do some research. Oh my god. What's funny about this is that this was made like a week ago. And by the time that he even posted this fucking video, I'm fairly certain the FTC already lost their appeal. Like, I'm 90% certain that they lost their appeal about the next day when he posted this fucking video. He doesn't even, again, that's, I'm tapping out. No, I'm tapping out. This video's too long. I can't do it. There's another, like, 2 minutes left of this video, but I think that that's irrelevant. I think that that right there goes to show you just how ill-informed this person is. Completely and utterly just... Got a little mad there. Sorry. In any case, I will say this. If you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, don't speak out of your ass. I think that we can all take away that lesson today. Don't talk out of your ass, kids. Because it doesn't make anyone look good. That's what this guy did. He just talked out of his fucking ass on this, like, ranty, stupid video here. And I can feel my brain cells rotting out as we speak. So, I think today is a good day to drink. I would also like to say, take a shot every time he makes a cut. You'll get fucking nasty assed by the time that we do this. Also, probably drink responsibly or anything like that. In any case, I think we're done here. I'm so fucking done. In any case, my name is GamePenguin21. Do follow me on all the social medias and things like that. Patreon and things is linked down in the description. Totally not necessary, but helps out a lot. And a nice subscribe and like the channel. Always good to see you. But yeah, my name is GamePenguin21. This guy is just fucking lost in his own forehead and a piece off.